What is up, guys? It's Ivan from One to Pass here, and today I'm bringing you guys my Legion Bermuda deck. So hope you guys enjoy, and I'll start off with the Great Freeze. So starting off with the Legion, I run free of Duo Victoria. I don't remember her full name, and I can't really read it because it's Jap, but pretty much her Legion mate is Quincy, which I'll talk more about later. Looks really nice. So her skill is, on Legion, you can choose a Bermuda. I think it has to be a duo, and then you have to return it to hand, and then you can search your deck for a copy. So it's not bad. It's a selective search from your deck, assuming you have a copy of it on your field. So kind of like Miracumo, not really, but it's similar. So I run free of her because 4 is really cloggy. But you want to be able to spam her skill a couple times. So you want to Legion, and then you want to re-ride her, and then you want to Legion again. And she also has a secondary skill. So if this unit is in Legion, so if you have another unit with Bermuda, then when it attacks a Vanguard, it gets plus 3k. So it's pretty good. It means it can hit 23k unboosted. And if you have if you use Lolo to hit 9k, you can hit 32k columns, which is pretty huge in the center column, and it's really good Vanguard pressure. So that's it for Legion. Next I'll move on. I run free Dual Temptation Rate. So she was the main boss that we used for EB10, so she's the restander of the deck. So her skill is Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2 at the end of the turn end of the battle that this unit attacked the Vanguard. You can Counterblast 2 and then discard 2 cards with the same 2 duels with the same name, and then you can restand this unit and it gets plus 3k. So it's really good. It's a restander and it lets it hit magic columns with the right boost, with a 7k booster. Like you can have 11, and then on the restand it gets plus 3k, so it's 14, 7, that's 21, so it's a perfect number. And also her secondary skill is when this attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, and then you can choose a card with Duo's name and return it to hand. So it's a pretty good card. I run free of her in this deck just because basically with Legion, you're going to be drawing a lot of cards, and you're going to be filtering out your deck. So you're going to get a lot of cards with Duo in its name, and then you want to keep putting triggers back in. So when you ride a rate, then you're going to hit a lot of triggers. So, and also with the fact that people don't really run perfect guards anymore, like they run 2 perfect guards, 2 quintet walls, it's going to be really hard to deal with a restanding Vanguard. And plus, there's ways in this deck that you can get your Vanguard to really high numbers, which I'll explain later on. So that's it for her. And then I run 1 Duo Ideal Sister Mirror. So she's the Break Ride. I don't run 4 anymore. I used to run 4 because that was the old build with the Break Ride, but Break Ride is a bit slow now, so I don't really want to run 4 of her. I just tech 1 in just in case you do end up riding into her. The mirror over Raid combo is still really strong, so I'll just get right into the card. So Limit Break 4, when a Bermuda rides, gets plus 10k, and it also gains a skill. So this skill is pretty powerful. It's Counterblast 1. When your Vanguard attacks, you can bounce all your Bermuda rearguards and then Superior Call 2. So this is pretty broken with Raid, because you have a restanding Vanguard, you can activate that skill twice. So you can swing with all your rear guards, bounce them all back to hand with Break Ride skill, and then you can Superior Call 2, attack, restand, attack with the rear guards, and attack your Vanguard again, activate this skill again, and Superior Call another 2 rear guards, and it's possible to pull off 8 attacks, which is Infinitel, that you see in Nova Grapplers with either Galaxy Balkuger or FX Buster Reverse. So it's pretty amazing, and especially because you return all your rear guards to hand, you're only gonna have 2 rear guards left on the field after you use after the break ride turn, so you're gonna have another additional 3 cards in your hand. So it's a really strong card. I don't really want to run 4 of her because again, I'm not really playing this for the break ride. It is really strong if you like, if you know you can wait a turn and you know that your opponent's not gonna get enough advantage in that turn, that you can ride over the Legion and then you can break ride. But the problem with this is that it takes up a lot of CB, and because I'm running Quincy, it's really hard to recover CB that well. So that's why I just run 1. It's just on the either on the off chance that I get it, or if I know that I can use her to finish off people. Because yeah, it's just kind of hard to. Sorry, it's just kind of hard to get her. Like, you're going to be filtering a lot of cards and you're going to be returning cards to the deck. The only issue is if you damage check her, then you're going to have to get a heal trigger to put her back in the drop zone and then Legion her back in the deck. So that's about it for that. And then for the Legion mate, I run free duo Quincy. So she's like a Girls Rock Rios clone. So when she's returned to hand, you can Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and then you can draw a card. So it's not bad. The problem is that you really need Soul in Bermudas, and there's no real way to exactly get it. I'm just running free because I want to be able to Legion spam. So I want to keep getting cards to hand. And another thing you can do with this card, you don't really want to use it that much, but if you have a card in the soul that you really want to get into drop zone, then you can use her like once early. And plus, you can also bluff people into thinking that I'm going to use this card. It's just because like, if they've played against it before, if they used to play against Bermudas, they would think that you're going to use it like Girls Rock Rios to get like a huge hand, but that's not the main draw engine in this deck. I'll explain later on as I go through the grade 1s. And yes, if you're familiar with Bermudas, I am running Peace. So then next I run 4 dual mini heart Ron. So Ron is the main like on hit pressure card. So when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and then you can return a card to hand and then search your deck for a copy of it and add it to hand. So it's basically the same thing as Victoria's skill, except it has to hit and you have to use 1 counterblast. So it's a really strong card. You want to ride into her early, and then you want to abuse her to start getting copies of cards to your hand, because you need copies of card for Rate's restand. And plus, if you have multiple copies of cards in hand, you can activate certain skills. And this deck is all about getting multiple copies of cards in hand. So it's pretty good. It's a really good advantage and pressure engine. Like, cards like these are always like win-win for you. Like, either you're going to get advantage by getting more cards in your hand, or you're going to minus your opponent's hand. So I really like this card. It's really worth the counterblast. It's a really good card. And then finally I run 4 12k attackers. You need this. Oh shoot. Sorry about that. I guess my camcorder wasn't really secured on. Yeah, you get a nice look at my room, maybe. Not sure. I just hope that's secure now. So I run 4 12k attackers. So this makes a lot of really good magic numbers. Like, there's a card called Lolo that can get up to 9k, and it's pretty powerful because you can go 12k and 9k. It's 21 magic numbers. Again, that won't really work against Crossride, but against Crossride, hitting 18k is usually enough. So that's about it for that. You need to run 4 copies because, again, you always need to run at least 3 copies of a card, unless you're like me and you know how to play the deck, and you like I tech this in just because I like her. And she's SP. I like SPs. Yay. Yeah, I sound like retard. So next for the grade 1s, I will run 1 Quintet Wall, 3 Perfect Guards. The reason I do this is because I don't want to go 2-2, because for once, if you only have like 1 copy on field and you use like Victoria to get this back to hand, then if you don't have another copy in your deck, you're pretty much screwed and you kind of just wasted it. So that's why I run free, because it's really unlikely you're gonna like lose both of them to the damage zone. The reason why I run one quintet wall is because you're not afraid of decking out anymore, and sometimes it's really good, especially against the Daikaiser, unless they're running Daikaiser and Metalborg, in which case, yeah, good luck with that. You can't even call this. So quintet walls are mainly used now to maul like 5 cards, so you can instantly get Legion, because you need to return 4 cards, so you can get 5, and plus you can choose what you want to put back in the deck, so you can kind of filter your deck out a bit like that. So that's why I run 3 perfect guards, 1 quintet. In different decks you want to do different things with it, but that's just how it works for this one. So I'm just going to move these up here, and then move this here. Alright, so 3 perfect guards and 1 quintet. And yes, I don't run the 2-2 anymore, because I like Aria Black's artwork a lot better. It's just a side thing. So this is the main like star of this deck. I used to run Chikora because you could get really high numbers, but with Legion now, I'm not afraid of decking out, and I can abuse this card a lot. So this is a duo piece. I don't remember her full name, but anyways, so when this card is returned from rearguard to hand, you can counterblast 1, and then you can draw a card. And the thing is, if you have 3 copies of this in your hand, you can reveal up to 3 copies. If you do, then you could unflip 1. So that's really good. Like, this can turn into like a 3+1. The reason why I didn't like her as much, like back in EB10 before the Legion came out, was because she had 6k, and you don't really like 6k, because if you run too much 6k, it's not that good. Your columns kind of suck if you only have 9ks in the front. But with 12ks, it's perfect cross ride, so it's pretty. Late game, you probably want to ditch her with rate, but overall she's pretty good. She's your main draw engine in this deck. Quincy is just kind of like a bait card, and the Legion mate. So that's about it for that. So you want to get 4 copies of this card in your hand ASAP, because that's your main draw engine, and it lets you get huge amounts of advantage over your opponent. Like, Bermudas and OTT are the 2 decks that can get the most advantage, and with this card it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, you can bounce multiple copies, and then you can draw like 3 cards instantly. So next I run 4 Lolos. So her skill is, when you call her, then you can plus 2k to every copy of her. So if I call her once, she's 9k. If I call another one, this one becomes another +2, so it's 11, and this one's 9. And it keeps going on if I call more copies. So this deck is really powerful, because you can hit like really high columns by having multiple copies of stuff. So you can set up your field really easily by like putting... The main thing you want to use her with is the 12k attacker. This becomes a 21k column, so you need to make sure when you're using her that you call the things in the right order in the right spot, just for maximum numbers. You have to calculate it out, but it's really effective. So I run 4 copies of that, and then finally for the grade ones, I run 2 Kuras. So Kura is on call, you use Soul Blast 2, and then you unflip 2 damage. So getting Soul is actually a lot easier than it sounds, because with Legion, riding, it becomes 2 Soul. Because when you ride over a Legion and their Legion mate, you get 2 Soul total. So you need this because you need to recover Counterblast. Like, you use Counterblast for her, you use Counterblast for Quintet. You never want to use Counterblast for her. Like, you need one open Counterblast, but you don't want to like permanently use it. So she's just to recover Counterblast. It's very important to get her. Make sure you always try to return her to hand with rate or something. You always want to get her back to hand so you can use her a couple times. So that's about it for her. Next, this is for the starter, and I taken 1 copy of Darling. So Darling is the starter. So she has Forerunner, and also if you put her into Soul, you can choose up to 4 copies of a single card with duo in its name, and then you can return them all to hand. So this is a really, really, really broken with piece, because if you have like 3 copies on the field, and then you like pop her into Soul, then you can draw 3 cards for free. It's really, really good. So that's why I run 2. Plus the fact that since she's your starter, like say early, what you can do is you can bluff your opponent. You have Ron and this, and you have some, like say like something here, and you don't attack with this. You attack with this first. So basically, what you do is like you play a mind game with your opponent that if they let this hit, then you're gonna return this to hand, but you can't. You're not gonna attack anything. You can't attack with this, so they'll let it hit. But what you'll do is you'll return this to hand and search a copy of this. Now you have 2 10k shields, and you have like 2 +3s with peace. So it's overall really good, and it's really abusable. So that's why my ratios are really weird. I have 7 grade 3s, I have 11 grade 2s, and I have 14 grade 1s, and then I have total 18 grade 0s. So next I run 4 stand triggers, and this is all the stand, all the black artwork, because the black artwork looks really good on this one, and I really like her. So she's basically a Chikora clone. So Chikora was the card that when you return her to hand, it has the same ability as Peace to unflip, but it's basically like Clear and Celtic from Prisms. If you're familiar with her, you get to plus 4k to something when she's returned to hand for Counterblast 1, and she has the unflip again. She has the unflip skill that Peace has, and several other cards share the if you reveal 3 copies, then you can unflip. So reason why I'm running this over draw triggers, there's 2 reasons. One, you already get enough cards with Peace, you really don't need the draws. Second one is that there are now cards that have glory clones, as many of you are aware. So Metalborg Simbuster and CEO Yggdrasil. So with draw triggers, you're pretty screwed because it's a 5k shield. Like, this sounds a lot like what V Mundi would say. I'm sorry, I don't want to hate on her, but like, anyways, so it's pretty valid to actually run this just because of 10k shield. Plus, because with for those of you that are unaware, glory skill is that you cannot call grade 1s or higher. So if you have like really ridiculously high numbers that you can get with Yggdrasil, you can't perfect guard it. You have to guard with grade 0s, and it's really, really hard to block. So this can help. Second reason is this is very abusable with a Ron. If you restand Ron, like, yeah, it's really brutal. So I always like running stand triggers because it lets me play a bit more aggressive early and get a lot more out of it. So yeah, that's why I run 4 stand triggers. I will... You know, I could run draws because it's cheaper ditch, but I just don't really feel like it's necessary anymore in this deck. So next I run 8 crit. 8 crit is necessary because you gotta get your opponent to high damage so you can start pressuring them. Yeah, 8 crit, you need to run 8 crit. I can't really think of any other trigger lineups that would work. And yeah, and finally I run 4 heal triggers. So heals, yeah, pretty standard. I always run heals because you can just put them back in the deck and keep healing and keep swapping cards out from your damage zone. Like Angel Feathers, no. But you want to put cards that you want to recycle back in the drop zone with heals. And because Legion now is hitting for such high numbers, you just want to have heal triggers so that you don't have to guard everything. So yeah, that's about it for this deck. As for how good it is, it's a pretty strong deck. It's just that the thing with Break Ride and Limit Break 4, it's too slow because they're gonna get a lot of advantage on you if they get early Legion. That if they survive your Break Ride turn and they survive your restands, then there's not much you can do. So that's why I think that this is probably gonna be the build that I move on to once the Legion is released in English. But until then, in English, I will still play the 4 mirror free rate and play with Chikors instead of Peace and run the draw triggers. So I can do a video on that later, but I don't think I really have to, because if you guys follow Card Otaku or Card Protagonist, my build is basically the same as them. I didn't copy their build. Like, I actually followed up with the exact same build, and when I watched the video, I'm like, oh, so our build is the same. This is really interesting. So yeah, that's basically about it for my duo deck. I can talk a lot more about the cards, but I think you guys are probably bored of me by now. So yeah, just like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.